Unless you've been living inside a cave in the Appalachian Range with cyclopses, you probably already know about the ongoing war in the Middle East. It started on February 28th when the United States and Israel jointly launched strikes on Iran, one of which killed their supreme leader, Ali Khamenei. Despite this massive event, the fighting between the two sides doesn't look to be slowing down anytime soon, and neither side seems to be in a position of folding. Add to that the fact that the Strait of Hormuz, adjacent to Iran, is a choke point to one of the largest oil supplies in the world, which serves a lot of powerful countries, and this has led to a lot of fears that this could begin World War III. It was around this time that my history class started teaching about the interwar years and how the League of Nations failed to prevent World War II. This made me start wondering if the United Nations that this world currently has is nothing but a League of Nations DLC with the same problems but the US as an added character. And as they say, one desperate for content YouTuber's thought brought up in the middle of class is that same YouTuber's treasure. Direct quote, by the way. So that's what I decided to make this video about. Does the UN have the power or even the will to stop World War III? Let's get into that. Rude. Anyway, the idea of an intergovernmental organization working towards long-lasting peace had been around broadly long before World War I. In fact, after the Napoleonic Wars, the victorious European powers created the Concert of Europe to prevent that happening again. Yeah, safe to say that didn't go well. World War I came and went despite their effort, leaving a massive loss of life and a significant change in the layperson's perspective of war, from glorious and heroic to traumatizing and ruthless, shifting a significant amount of people into the anti-war camp. This sentiment would result in the Allies, and especially the United States, trying again to create an organization tasked with preventing wars. As a result, the Treaty of Versailles, signed in 1919 to officially end the war, would order the creation of a new League of Nations to fulfill that exact purpose. The League of Nations had more chips on its shoulder than a guy with one arm. Firstly, the most powerful nation in the world, the USA, wasn't even in it, despite being the main driving force for its creation. And as with most terrible decisions by our government, the reason is a divided Congress. The Senate voted against joining the League largely because the majority Republicans, led by Henry Lodge, weren't exactly fond of President Woodrow Wilson, and felt insulted when he didn't include senators at the Paris Peace Conference. As a result, the League had less power backing them up and thus less intimidation to other countries. Inside the League, there was also struggling over how and when to assert their authority. Many people inside the League, including Secretary General Eric Drummond, believed that any kind of failure would make them look weak, so they were incredibly cautious. This itself made them look weak, and it would cost them. In 1931, when Japan invaded Manchuria, the League launched the Lyddon Commission to investigate Japan's claims that Manchurian rebels had bombed Japanese railways. When the commission reported that it was a false flag operation the whole time and the League demanded them to give Manchuria back to the Republic of China, the Japanese government went, "Hora, omae wa gomi da. Mou owari da," and left the League. They would be the first of many powerful countries, especially after the rise of fascism. Hitler's Germany went Videgin in 1933, Mussolini's Italy went Arrivederci in 1937, and Franco's Spain went No estoy diciendo eso in 1939. This would gut the League of its power and authority, and Britain and France's appeasement policy didn't help. Germany would invade Poland in 1939, you know what happened, and the League would slowly dismantle and defeat during the war. After the war, the again victorious Allies went, third time's surely the charm, right? And created the United Nations to, again, prevent another world war. And that's still what it's doing to this day, 80 years later, along with some other goals, but the World War trilogy has yet to be completed to this day. So it looks like the third time really is the charm for organizations promoting world peace. Or is it? Like I said before, this video idea was brought up after the US and Israel jointly launched strikes on Iran at the turn of the month. And right now, I can effectively say that the UN hasn't physically done anything to resolve the conflict so far. Right now, all they've done is made statements strongly condemning the parties involved and urging all sides to see reason. This irked me as someone who, doesn't want people to suffer and be blown up. After all, the UN's job is to actually go and do their best to stop this kind of stuff, not just go, "Come on, guys, stop this, please." But then I started thinking, what can they really do? After all, they are a peacekeeping organization, they don't have an army. So I did some research on that too. And in short, they actually can, and have, physically intervened in hostile zones. You see, the UN has this thing called peacekeeping forces. They're basically groups of police, soldiers, and even regular schmucks that are organized and deployed to hostile zones to, well, keep the peace. They're organized, supervised, and deployed by the UN Security Council, and there are 11 peacemaking missions currently underway. So the UN does have some bite to their bark. However, their jaw is held open by the very countries that set it up. Because, you see, for the UN Security Council to pass practically anything, they need 9 affirmative votes out of the 15 members of the Council. And those 9 votes have to include all 5 of the countries of China, the UK, France, as well as the US and Russia. I think you can start to see the problem here. Unsurprisingly, when it came time for votes regarding the recent wars in Ukraine and Gaza, Russia and the United States respectively vetoed them. Why did they have these powers, you may ask? Oh, it's simple. They were selected as such at the Dumbarton Oaks Conference in 1943, a conference that the US, USSR, the UK, and China led. And at the Yalta Conference in 1945, the US, UK, and USSR agreed on the veto rule, again, with no outside opinions. That doesn't sound unjust at all, that sounds great. A lot of people don't seem to agree, however, and there's been a heck of a lot of calls for reform. That also involves the agreement of all 5 countries. Yeah, those greedy boys thought about everything, didn't they? In summary, the UN, unlike the LN, has considerable power in its hands to protect peace, especially with powerful countries actually as members. However, those very powerful countries that give it legitimacy have also rigged the process to the extent where, like the LN, those countries can stall that power whenever they want. And now, with the war in the Middle East, we might, no, scrap that, we will see the US pulling this tomfoolery again. And sadly, it will lead to casualties on both sides. Moral of the story, maybe we just shouldn't trust powerful countries in making international decisions. Like, ever.